Sure, here's a 2,500-word cinematic story article written in an emotional, descriptive, and dramatic style suitable for a YouTube narration, no headings, smooth flow, full storytelling tone. The cabin lights glowed softly as passengers began boarding Flight 927 from New York to London. It was one of those overnight flights, calm, efficient, and filled with the quiet hum of business travelers and tourists alike. Among the passengers was a poised woman in her mid-30s, dressed in a tailored navy blue suit that whispered elegance and authority without a single word. Her name was Ava Thompson, though no one on that plane, not even the crew, knew she was the CEO and majority owner of Thompson Air, the very airline they worked for. Ava had always preferred to travel discreetly. She believed that if she truly wanted to understand her company, she needed to experience it as an ordinary passenger. No VIP treatment, no special seats, no one calling ahead to announce her arrival. Just her ticket, and a quiet seat in business class. As she stepped onto the plane, she smiled politely at the flight attendant greeting passengers at the door. "Good evening," she said softly. The attendant, a young woman named Samantha, glanced briefly at her but didn't smile back. "Boarding pass, please," she said flatly, her tone clipped and impatient. Ava handed it over, unfazed. Samantha scanned it and motioned with her chin toward the aisle. "Seat 4A, straight ahead." Ava thanked her and moved on, but she couldn't help noticing how Samantha's tone brightened instantly when a man in a designer suit walked in behind her. "Welcome aboard, sir," she said with a dazzling smile. "Can I help you with your bag?" Ava shook her head slightly, thinking, that's exactly what I mean. Some people treat others based on what they wear, not who they are. She placed her small carry-on in the overhead compartment and settled into her seat. The cabin buzzed with the sound of boarding, the shuffle of bags, the murmur of passengers, the soft clinking of glasses from the galley. Everything seemed normal, until, halfway through boarding, a mild argument broke out a few rows back. "Ma'am, you can't place your bag there," Samantha snapped at an older woman. "That's not your compartment, but the one above my seat is full," the woman replied timidly. "I thought." "Don't think," Samantha interrupted. "Just follow instructions." Ava's eyes narrowed. Her flight attendants were supposed to handle passengers with patience and respect, no matter how stressful things got. She made a mental note to later review this flight's crew reports. Once everyone was seated, the plane taxied toward the runway. Ava opened her tablet to read a company report about expanding into Africa and Europe. It was a bold move, one she'd worked tirelessly on for months. But before she could dive in, Samantha appeared beside her row, her tone sharp once again. "Ma'am, please turn off your electronic devices. We're about to take off." Ava looked up calmly. "Of course," she said, tapping her screen to close the document. "Just finishing up." Samantha's frown deepened. "I said off. Completely off." "That's not off. It's shutting down now," Ava replied evenly. Samantha crossed her arms. "I've been flying for 7 years. Don't tell me what shutting down looks like. Some passengers think the rules don't apply to them." A few passengers nearby glanced over, sensing tension. Ava's jaw tightened, but she kept her composure. "You're right," she said quietly. "The rules apply to everyone." "Good," Samantha said, smirking slightly, before walking away. The flight continued smoothly for the first few hours. Dinner was served, lights dimmed, and passengers settled in. Ava tried to relax, sipping a cup of chamomile tea while reading a report on employee satisfaction. The irony wasn't lost on her. But her peace didn't last long. A man seated across the aisle accidentally spilled his wine, and the liquid splashed near Ava's shoes. He apologized immediately. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, miss. Let me clean that up." Before Ava could respond, Samantha rushed over, glaring. "Sir, what did you do?" she exclaimed. "Now we've got a mess because you can't hold a cup properly." "It was an accident," the man stammered. Samantha sighed dramatically. "Just sit tight. I'll handle it." She disappeared and returned with napkins, but instead of addressing the man who caused the spill, she turned on Ava. "You'll need to lift your feet, ma'am," she said curtly. "We don't want to stain the carpet." Ava complied quietly, but the way Samantha spoke, cold, dismissive, irritated, struck a chord. It wasn't just unprofessional, it was personal, and as the flight went on, Ava realized she wasn't imagining it. Samantha ignored her drink requests, brushed past her seat without acknowledgement, and even rolled her eyes when Ava asked politely for a blanket. By the time breakfast service began, Ava's patience had worn thin. She pressed the call button once. Nothing. Twice. Still nothing. On the third press, Samantha finally appeared, her face tight with annoyance. "What is it now?" she asked. "I just wanted a cup of coffee, please," Ava said softly. Samantha huffed. "We're about to land soon. You should have asked earlier." "I did," Ava replied calmly. "Twice." "Maybe I didn't hear you," Samantha said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "We're busy serving other passengers, you know." Ava met her gaze steadily. "I understand. But the way you're speaking to me isn't acceptable." That did it. Samantha's eyes flashed. "Excuse me, you don't tell me what's acceptable. I know how to do my job." "Then do it with respect," Ava said, still calm but firm. At that moment, several passengers turned their heads. A few murmured, sensing the tension rise. Samantha, feeling embarrassed and defensive, snapped, "Don't raise your voice at me." "I'm not raising my voice," Ava said. "I'm asking for professionalism." Samantha's temper flared. In a split second of uncontrolled anger, she did something unthinkable. She slapped Ava across the face. The sound echoed through the cabin like thunder. Gasps filled the air. A child started crying somewhere in the back. The man across the aisle jumped from his seat. "What the hell are you doing?" he shouted. Ava froze. Not from pain, but from shock. She had spent her life in boardrooms commanding respect from politicians, executives, and world leaders. Yet here she was, struck in front of everyone by one of her own employees. For a long moment, no one moved. Samantha's eyes widened, realizing what she'd done. Her hand trembled. I didn't mean." Before she could finish, the co-pilot, alerted by another flight attendant, rushed into the cabin. "What happened here?" he demanded. Passengers started speaking all at once. She slapped her. It was unprovoked. Completely out of line. Ava stood slowly, her voice low but steady. "I'll handle this," she said. The co-pilot tried to intervene. "Ma'am, please take your seat. We'll file a report once we land." Ava nodded slightly. "Oh, there will be a report." Samantha, pale and shaking, muttered, "You can't talk to me like that. You think you're someone important." Ava turned to her, eyes calm but powerful. "You have no idea who I am." When the plane landed at Heathrow, authorities were waiting at the gate. Samantha was escorted off first, still insisting it was just a misunderstanding. "She provoked me." The other passengers, however, told the truth. Several had recorded the entire exchange on their phones. The video quickly began circulating online. Before Ava could even exit the plane, it was already trending with millions of views. But what happened next would shake the entire airline industry. A few hours later, news outlets began breaking the story. Flight attendant slaps passenger mid-flight, passenger turns out to be airline CEO. Samantha's face was everywhere, her photo splashed across headlines, social media exploding with outrage. Employees across Thompson Air couldn't believe it. The CEO, on a regular flight, no one had even known. At headquarters in New York, the PR team scrambled to issue statements, unaware that Ava herself was on her way to address them directly. When she walked into the conference room, every executive stood up in silence. She didn't yell. She didn't even look angry. She simply said, "This isn't just about one flight attendant. It's about the culture we allow." She then played the recording of the incident. The slap, the gasps, the humiliation. "If this is how our crew treats passengers who don't look important, imagine how many others have suffered quietly," she said. Her words cut through the room like a knife. "We can't build an airline based on technology or luxury if we lose our humanity. I built this company to treat every person, no matter their color, wealth, or background, with respect. And we failed." That afternoon, Ava personally reached out to passengers on the flight, thanking them for their composure and promising a thorough review. She also announced a new initiative, the Humanity in Service program, focused on retraining every single crew member on empathy, equality, and emotional intelligence. As for Samantha, she was immediately suspended pending investigation. When asked by reporters about the incident, Ava's response was measured but unforgettable: "Everyone deserves a second chance. But that doesn't mean there aren't consequences. We'll handle this with fairness, the same fairness I expect her to show every passenger." Over the next week, the story continued to dominate headlines. Public opinion poured in, some praising Ava's grace, others criticizing the flight attendant's behavior. But what truly moved people was Ava's decision not to press criminal charges. Instead, she requested that Samantha undergo mandatory training and community service focused on workplace respect and diversity awareness. Then, something unexpected happened. A few months later, during a live press conference, Ava announced that the same flight attendant, Samantha, had completed the program and requested to meet her. The audience held its breath as Samantha walked onto the stage, visibly nervous but humble. "I don't expect forgiveness," she said, her voice trembling. "But I learned more in these few months than I did in years of working. I realized I wasn't just rude, I was judgmental. I treated people differently based on assumptions, and that's not who I want to be." Ava smiled softly and stepped forward. "Growth begins with acknowledgement," she said, extending her hand. "You've taken responsibility. That's what matters." The two women shook hands, and the room erupted in applause. Cameras flashed. It was a moment that no one expected, the symbol of humility meeting leadership, apology meeting forgiveness. Afterward, in private, Samantha said quietly, "When I slapped you, I thought you were just another demanding passenger. I had no idea who you were." Ava replied gently, "That's the lesson, isn't it? You never know who someone really is, so treat everyone like they matter." The clip of their handshake went viral within hours. Not as a scandal this time, but as a story of redemption and humanity. Employees across the airline began sharing their own stories of learning and growth. Cabin crews reported better teamwork, and passenger satisfaction soared. Thompson Air's reputation, once threatened, now shined brighter than ever before. In a later interview, Ava was asked why she didn't fire Samantha immediately after the incident. She smiled and said, "Because true leadership isn't about punishment. It's about transformation. If one person can change, so can a company." From that day forward, Thompson Air became known not just for luxury service but for something deeper, a culture of respect, empathy, and second chances. And as for Ava, she continued flying anonymously from time to time, still sitting quietly among her passengers, always observing, always believing that the heart of a company isn't found in its offices or profits, but in the way its people treat one another. And somewhere in the sky, between the hum of engines and the whisper of wind, that single slap, once a symbol of disrespect, became the spark that reminded an entire industry what humanity truly meant. Would you like me to make this story even more dramatic and emotional for YouTube voice narration, with dialogue pacing and cinematic detail, or should I keep it in this balanced storytelling tone?